What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're gonna be installing some new brake pads. So you guys have kind of been seeing me getting the car track prepped. We've done a few different things. Last week, we installed these little mud flaps, carbon mud flaps. I've driven around with them for a little while, but they're doing well to protect the side of the car here. We've done upgraded brake fluid with stainless steel lines. We have the roll cage installed with a fire extinguisher mount. We have the JQ Works steering wheel, and we're pretty well prepped for some track abuse. So we got a track weekend in about 2 weeks. So the last thing that we need to do to get this car perfectly dialed is some track pads. So I actually have a set of track pads from CSG, Counter Space Garage. They're the CE, well, let me get this straight. They're the C1, and then for the rears, they're the CE1. So they're technically a slightly different pad, but CSG only makes that for the F80 chassis. So pretty aggressive pad, definitely a track specific pad. I've used them before, but they're quite noisy, a lot of dust on the wheels. Right now we're on some Ferodo DS2500s, and you can see I've driven, maybe 150 miles, and the wheels are filthy. So this isn't even any aggressive driving. This is just driving around town, going to get photos and stuff. So today we're just going to be showing you what it's like, what the install is like. It's super simple on these calipers. These are the 4-pot calipers, standard blue iron brakes is what they call them, the steel brakes. So super easy to do on these calipers. We're just going to do one side at a time. Suspension's stiff enough that we can jack up one side of the car at a time. So we're just going to go ahead and get those installed real quick. I'll show you what it looks like. It's really simple. And go for a little drive and make sure everything's looking good. They'll get bedded on track. So these they don't need a bedding process like typically where you need to go out, and a typical process is say multiple stops from 60 to 15, 45 to 10, 60 to 15. And what you're doing is you're just kind of warming up the brakes and getting them to bed or seat properly to your OEM rotors. So that way they have a full contact surface and they perform well. But these won't need that because they are the track pads, and they're kind of designed so that they will bed themselves on your first lap as a warm-up lap. So just getting them warm the first time and they should be good to go. So we're gonna street on these. I've used them on the street before. It's not too difficult, it's not too bad. They do stop in the cold. They don't stop the best, but they don't stop the best compared to what they are. So I would still say they stop almost as good as OEM in the cold, which is plenty. So, and they warm up pretty quickly. So don't really have an issue with that. But so after we get them installed, we're just gonna do a short little drive just to test them out. They will be a little noisy, but that's kind of what you get with track pads, just sort of lets you know that they're working. So let's get the car jacked up and we'll get these thrown on. So as it is with most parts on this car so far, really simple. First thing we're gonna do, just go ahead and take off these, take off the wheels. If you guys don't have these, I highly recommend getting a set of lug studs. They will make your life so much easier taking the wheels on and off of the car. These are from Motorsport Hardware. These will accept up to a 20 mil spacer. So right now you can see I have a 5 mil spacer on here. You don't have to change the length of the bolt like you would previously. Super easy, really simple install, easy to take the wheels on and off. This is the 14 by 1.5 conversion. So stock, the threads are 14 by 1.25, and those are a thinner thread. a more fine thread, so they're more likely to strip. But these are the 14 by 1.5s, so definitely something I would recommend. They're pretty cheap, I think around 150 bucks. They take maybe 20 or 30 minutes to install, so super simple, super easy. Definitely something I would do for some track prep. So here we are. This is the rear caliper. You can see we have both rear rotors, or both rear pads right here, and then we have a pad wear sensor. So we're going to be removing this pad wear sensor, as we don't really want that. That's not something we need on track. We're going to be checking our pads pretty often, so we will just we're just going to take this sensor, kind of tie it up and out of the way for now. That way we don't get any warnings inside the car for low pads or anything like that. But only thing that's holding in these pads are these 2 pins. So we're going to be very careful because we don't want to nick the front of the paint. We're just going to use a little mallet and a pin. I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver. I think this one's a little too big, but just use it on this flat surface here. Go ahead and push this pin in, and then these pads will slide right out. And we're just going to zip tie this pad wear sensor off the back somewhere safe where it won't rub or interfere with anything. So let's get these punched out. We'll get these pads off. So here you go. First pin is out. You can see this little clamp here underneath was kind of holding some tension underneath the 2 of them. It makes them a little bit more difficult to pull out. Pull that out. Then this pin pulls right back out as well. Then just squeeze the pads a little bit to compress the pistons. And the stock pad pops right out. Just like that. No problem. For the, here you can see the pad wear sensor. All it is a little sensor that when the pad gets worn down enough, you'll start rubbing into the sensor. So it'll tell you, when your pads are too low. But we're just gonna go ahead and pry that out. Pretty simple. Push off of there, and we got this pad out as well. So like I said, we're just going to take this sensor, and we're going to wire it back up on itself so that it's not in the way, not hitting anything. Probably just going to wire it back and zip tie it. You might be able to see a little bit better up here. So I'm just going to take this sensor, and I'm going to wire it back up here onto the suspension arm so that we don't run into any issue with it rubbing anything or making contact anywhere. So next, we can take the new pads, the CSG pads. These are used. I've used them before. But all we're going to do, slip it right on in here. Could be a little tight. Otherwise, just press it out a little bit. There's the front, there's the back side. Slide in the front side. So if you run into this problem, the issue is that the back pad is slid in, and you can see the boot. Yeah, so there you have the little piston in here, and the piston is sort of compressed on the front side, but not on the back side. So the back side pad slides right in, but the front side pad is hitting that before we can slide it in. So all we need to do, be super careful, but I just use a larger flathead screwdriver or a little pry bar, and I just push the disc back in, and we should be good to go. And there we go, we all slid in. So one thing you just kind of want to be sure of is that when you pry in on the boot, is that we're not pressing on the boot itself, but we're pressing on the actual piston. It's on the inner section because that part's metal. And so we just want to make sure that we're not going to damage that boot at all. So from the back side, a little difficult to do with gloves, but just going to find that hole for the alignment pin. This one wants to fall out. So you can see it come through. I'm gonna come through the front one as well. And that one's in. Next we will set our little pad spring. This helps keep the springs in place. So we're just going to start the rear, pull the pin through, make sure that we get it under this spring. Sometimes it can be a little tricky. And next thing we're gonna do, be super careful, but from the back side of the car or the back side of the caliper, we're just gonna hammer these in. So be super careful when doing this. I always try and use a mallet so that I don't potentially damage the back side of the caliper. So you'll know you're done when you see both pins pop through at the front. That lets you know that the pins are all the way back forward in. Check the pads, we're looking pretty good, pretty tight. They'll tighten up a little bit as those pistons compress inside as well. So here it is, this is what the rear looks like. This side's all done. Go ahead and get the wheel thrown back on and we'll move to the front. So up here at the front, we have the same basic setup, a pin at the bottom, a pin at the top, and a little plate holding the pads in. So let's get these pins popped out and we will get the little backstopper out as well. So as you can see, we've got one side complete. Really, really simple. Basically, all we're doing is taking out the stock pads. You just push out those pins, put in the new pins with the new pads. Simple as that. So like I said, we have the passenger side done. Everything's all tightened up. So we're just gonna go ahead and go over to the driver's side now and get those installed. So these are the OEM BMW pads. They are, oh, actually, sorry. These are the DS2500s in the front. They have plenty of life left. But so this is a slightly more aggressive pad than what came stock. It does dust quite a bit, but they work pretty well. And then in the rears, these are the OEM pads. This car's kind of front heavy. I know it's actually not front heavy. It's pretty well balanced, but most of the time we're kind of worried about what our front pads are doing anyways, as we have a lot of weight transfer to the front in heavy braking zones. So like I said, these are the OEM pads, pretty small, but we still do the upgraded to match. It definitely does help, especially when you start pushing a little bit more to make sure that the car is balanced. You don't want the front to be locking up and the rear to still be moving quite fast. That'll kind of tend to get the back end to be loose or feel light as you come into a corner. So we don't want any of that feeling. So like I said, we have the C1 and the CE1 pad from CSG. So let's get over to the driver's side, get those installed. This is super simple, super quick. So, I mean, I think I've been at this for like maybe 15, 20 minutes now. So don't be scared to do your own brake swap on these cars. Super simple. Well, there you have it. We have the brakes installed. I just went for a quick little drive just to make sure that you know, everything's working well. No loud noises, no clunks, none of that. No screeching, no bad sounds or anything like that. So everything works well. Everything's pretty good. I got on them just a little bit. They stopped pretty well, but man, I can tell these are already going to be super, super dusty. And they're quite loud. So sounds kind of like a train coming down the street now. But it is what it is. You know, not too much you can do about it. You know, you want to have good brakes for the track. This is kind of inevitable, but I might, depending on how much I track this, how often I track this, the brake pad swap is so simple, so easy. So there are some other pad options that are super quiet, kind of more of a street pad that I wouldn't push at all, and that actually don't dust. I think one brand is called the Akebono pads. They're notorious for having like almost zero dust, and they stop almost as well as the OEM pads. Now, to me, that's kind of wrong, if you will, to put a pad that's only just as good or maybe a little less good than the OEM pads. Kind of doesn't make sense to me, but it does make sense to not have brake dust, I'll tell you that, because the brake dust really kind of gets on my nerves. But other than that, we're all set here. This was I was kind of debating doing this today. It's actually one of the colder days in Houston. It's about 30 degrees outside. This is an unheated garage, so I don't have any climate control in here, but we're supposed to get some freezing temperatures. We're actually even supposed to get like 3 to 5 inches of snow here in Houston. So sure hope that doesn't happen. It'd be nice, but the whole city's gonna shut down for the next week. So like I said, we got our track day coming up in 2 weeks. Our car is looking good. We're pretty much set. Still waiting on one part to come in. I kind of hope it does so that I can get it installed before the track day. It's not a must-have. It's kind of more of just a want, something that'd be nice to have on the car for the track. So we'll see if it does. If not, that's okay. But that's going to do it for today. I hope you guys watching me install the new CSG track pads. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment. I'll see you guys in the next video.